Zachary L. Kennedy had exactly 72 hours to prove he wasn't a failure. He sat in his tow truck at 11:47 p.m., parked in the gravel lot behind Murphy's Auto Salvage, staring at the photograph taped to his dashboard. Lily, 6 years old, gap-toothed smile, holding the stuffed rabbit he'd won for her at the county fair. In 3 days, a judge would decide that smile would disappear from his life forever. Not just any judge. Judge Sterling Hewitt, the Iron Judge. The man had a reputation that preceded him like thunder before lightning. Cold, methodical, unmoved by tears or pleas. Word around the courthouse was that Hewitt believed children belonged in stable, high-income households with predictable schedules and adequate resources. 3 phrases that described everything Zachary wasn't. His phone buzzed. A text from his lawyer, Morrison. Don't be late Friday. Hewitt hates tardiness. Also, we need to talk about your cross-examination strategy. You need to defend yourself. Zachary deleted the message. Defend himself? What was there to defend? That he worked 16-hour days hauling wrecked cars? That his apartment had 1 bedroom? So Lily slept in the living room on a fold-out couch she'd helped him pick out? That sometimes dinner was cereal because he was too exhausted to cook? Vivian's lawyer would paint him as a man drowning in poverty, a combat veteran too broken to provide stability. And maybe they were right. Maybe Lily deserved better than grease-stained coveralls, and a father who smelled like motor oil and regret. Thunder cracked across the sky, and the first drops of rain hit his windshield like accusations. His radio crackled. "Zach, you there?" Murphy's voice, thick with concern. "Yeah, boss. Storm's getting bad. Power's out on Route 47, up in the mountain pass. Police are reporting down lines, possible accidents. I need you to make a run up there. See if anyone needs a tow." Zachary glanced at the clock. If he went now, he'd miss his second shift at the warehouse loading dock. Miss that shift, and he'd lose $40 he desperately needed for Friday's court filing fees. But Murphy wasn't asking. The old man had given him this job when no one else would hire a veteran with PTSD and a custody battle hanging over his head. "I'm on it," Zachary said. He put Lily's photo in his pocket, close to his heart, and drove into the storm. "Before we continue, please tell us where in the world you're watching from. We love seeing how far our stories travel, and it reminds us that hope and second chances are universal languages." Route 47 wound to the Cascade foothills like a scar, dark and treacherous even in good weather. Tonight, it was a nightmare. Rain hammered the windshield faster than the wipers could clear it. Lightning turned the world into violent snapshots. Trees bent sideways, power lines dangling like broken spines, the road slick and black as oil. Zachary drove slowly, his high beams cutting through the deluge. His hands were steady on the wheel. Steady hands. That's what his drill sergeant had said about him in basic training. Kennedy's got steady hands. Put him on triage. And so they had, for 3 tours in places where steady hands meant the difference between life and death. He rounded a curve and saw it. A luxury sedan, dark blue, maybe a BMW, pulled halfway onto the shoulder with its hazards flashing weakly. The hood was up, and smoke or steam rose from the engine bay. Zachary pulled up behind it and grabbed his flashlight. He stepped out into the storm, immediately soaked, and approached the vehicle. Through the rain-streaked rear window, he saw 2 figures. 2 women. One was hunched forward, clutching her chest. The other was pounding on the window, her face twisted in panic. He knocked on the driver's side window. The panicking woman, young, maybe mid-20s, wearing what looked like an expensive green evening gown now plastered to her skin, stared at him with wild eyes. She tried the door. It wouldn't open. The electronics were dead. Zachary moved to the front and checked the hood. The engine compartment was blackened, scorched. Lightning strike. The whole electrical system was fried. He returned to the window and made a cranking motion. The woman understood and tried to manually roll down the window. It moved an inch, then stuck. But it was enough. "Please," she gasped through the gap, her voice breaking. "My sister. She can't breathe. Her inhaler isn't working." Zachary's training kicked in instantly, that old combat medicom settling over him like a second skin. I need you to unlock the door manually, he said, his voice firm but not harsh. There's usually a manual release near the lock mechanism. Look for a small pull tab or lever. I don't know. Red or orange tab. Near the door handle. Feel for it. Her hand shook, but she searched. Found it. Pulled. The lock clicked. Zachary wrenched the door open. The dome light didn't come on, dead electronics, so he used his flashlight. The scene was worse than he'd thought. The woman in the passenger seat, Maria, he would learn later, was in severe respiratory distress. Her lips had a bluish tint. Her breathing was shallow, rapid, desperate. Acute asthma attack, probably triggered by the stress and the smoke from the electrical fire. Her inhaler lay useless on her lap. Its electronic dose counter-dead from the lightning surge. What's her name? Zachary asked. Maria. I'm Anna. Please, we called 911, but they said it could be 30 minutes. The storm. 30 minutes. Maria didn't have 30 minutes. Zachary could see that. He'd seen this before in Kandahar, when a sandstorm had triggered an asthma attack in one of the local interpreters. That man had died because they couldn't get him to an aid station in time. I'm going to help her, Zachary said. He turned to Anna. Do you trust me? Anna looked at him, really looked at him. A stranger in grease-stained coveralls and work boots, soaking wet, appearing out of nowhere in the middle of a life-threatening storm. She had every reason to say no, but something in his eyes must have convinced her. The steadiness, the certainty. Yes, she whispered. Zachary ran to his truck and grabbed his old medic bag. He kept it in the back, a relic from his service that he'd never been able to throw away. Inside, a manual resuscitator bag, a pocket mask, a stethoscope, combat gauze, tourniquets, tools he'd hoped never to use again. He returned to the BMW and opened the passenger door. Maria, my name is Zach. I was a combat medic. I'm going to help you breathe. Nod if you understand. Maria's eyes were wide with terror, but she managed a tiny nod. Good. I need you to stay calm. I know that's hard, but panic makes it worse. I'm going to give you oxygen and open up your airways. You're going to be fine. He positioned her upright, tilted her head back slightly to open the airway, and assessed her breathing, wheezing, severe chest retractions. Her oxygen saturation would be dangerously low. From his bag, he pulled out a pocket mask and attached it to her face. Then he retrieved a manual resuscitator bag, a simple device, non-electric, that could force air into the lungs with hand squeezes. On my count, I need you to try to take a breath with me, he said. 1, 2, 3. He squeezed the bag gently, forcing oxygen-rich air into her lungs. Maria gasped, coughed, gasped again. He repeated the process, establishing rhythm. Breathe, 2, 3. Breathe, 2, 3. Anna watched, tears streaming down her face. Is she going to die? Not tonight, Zachary said. And he meant it. He'd lost people before, good people, people he cared about, but not from asthma, not when he had the tools and the training. After 2 minutes of assisted breathing, Maria's color began to improve. The blue tint faded. Her breathing, while still labored, became more regular. We need to get her to a hospital, Zachary said. The ER will give her a nebulizer treatment and steroids. But I can't do that here. The car won't start, Anna said helplessly. I know. We're taking my truck. He lifted Maria carefully. She was light, probably weighed no more than 120 pounds, and carried her through the rain to his tow truck. Anna followed, clutching her sister's purse and phone. Zachary settled Maria in the back seat of the extended cab, keeping the resuscitator bag with her, showing Anna how to continue the assisted breathing if needed. Memorial Hospital is 20 minutes from here, he said, climbing into the driver's seat. We'll make it in 15. He did. 13 minutes. Actually, driving with the kind of controlled aggression he'd learned in convoy operations. When they pulled up to the ER entrance, he carried Maria inside himself, calling out to the triage nurse. Acute asthma attack, assisted breathing for approximately 15 minutes. Patient is responsive but needs immediate intervention. The ER team swarmed. They took Maria from his arms, transferred her to a gurney, wheeled her through double doors. Anna tried to follow, but a nurse stopped her, asking for information, insurance cards, details. Zachary stepped back. His job was done. He was halfway to the exit when Anna called out, "Wait, please. What's your name? How can we thank you?" He paused, turned. Anna was standing there in her ruined green gown, mascara running down her face, looking at him like he performed a miracle. "No need," Zachary said. "I hope your sister recovers quickly. But we don't even know who you are. Just a mechanic." He said, "Take care of her." And then he was gone, back into the storm, driving toward an apartment where his daughter's empty fold-out couch waited to remind him of everything he stood to lose. Friday arrived like an executioner. Zachary stood in courtroom 4B of the Cascade County Courthouse, wearing the only suit he owned, a charcoal gray number he'd bought at Goodwill for $19. It didn't fit quite right, tight in the shoulders, loose in the waist, but it was clean and pressed. Morrison, his lawyer, stood beside him, shuffling papers nervously. Across the aisle, Vivian sat with her legal team. 3 lawyers in $1,000 suits, briefcases that probably cost more than Zachary's truck. Vivian herself looked immaculate. Auburn hair perfectly styled, cream-colored dress, pearl earrings. She didn't look at him. She never did. At the bench sat Judge Sterling Hewitt. The Iron Judge was in his early 60s, with silver hair, sharp features, and eyes that seemed to calculate the worth of everything they landed on. He wore his black robe like armor. Zachary had heard stories about him. How he'd once held a father in contempt for showing up 5 minutes late. How he'd terminated parental rights for a mother who missed 3 supervised visits. Hewitt believed in order, structure, stability. He believed in the system. Zachary believed in his daughter. "We'll now hear closing arguments," Judge Hewitt said, his voice crisp and authoritative. "Ms. Chun, you may proceed." Victoria Chun, Vivian's lead attorney, stood. She was a woman in her 40s, blonde, efficient, with the kind of smile that never reached her eyes. "Your Honor," she began, "this case is straightforward. The question before this court is simple. Which parent can provide the most stable, secure environment for Lily Kennedy? The evidence overwhelmingly favors my client." She clicked a remote, and a screen lit up with a photograph of Vivian's home, a 4-bedroom colonial in an upscale neighborhood, manicured lawn, 2-car garage. Ms. Vivian Kennedy earns $170,000 annually as a senior marketing director. She owns her home outright. She has health insurance, a retirement plan, and the resources to provide Lily with private education, extracurricular activities, and a stable routine. Click. Another photo. Zachary's apartment building. Cracked siding. Weeds in the parking lot. A dumpster overflowing in the corner. Mr. Kennedy, by contrast, lives in a 1-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood with a crime rate 37% above the county average. He works 2 jobs, a tow truck mechanic and a warehouse loader, with unpredictable hours that often require him to leave Lily with neighbors or in after-school programs. Click. A photo of Zachary's tow truck, rusty and dented. He drives a vehicle that has failed safety inspections twice in the past year. His income last year was $28,000, barely above the poverty line. Zachary felt each word like a punch. Morrison had warned him this was coming, but hearing it laid out so clinically, so mercilessly, made his chest tighten. Chun continued, "Mr. Kennedy is a veteran, and we respect his service. But the reality is that he suffers from PTSD, for which he has sought treatment only sporadically. His ex-wife reports incidents of nightmares, hypervigilance, and emotional withdrawal, symptoms that could traumatize a young child." "Objection," Morrison said, standing. "There's no evidence that Mr. Kennedy's PTSD has ever put Lily in danger." "Sustained," Judge Hewitt said. "Ms. Chun, stick to facts." "Of course, Your Honor." Chun smiled thinly. "The facts are these. Mr. Kennedy cannot provide the stability, security, or resources that Lily needs and deserves. My client is prepared to offer Lily a life of opportunity. Excellent schools, music lessons, summer camps. Mr. Kennedy offers uncertainty." She sat down, satisfied. Judge Hewitt looked at Morrison. "Mr. Morrison, you're closing?" Morrison stood, clearing his throat. He was a decent man, Zachary thought, but not a warrior. Not like Chun. Your Honor, my client loves his daughter. That should count for something. He's worked tirelessly to provide for her, and while his circumstances are modest, Lily is happy, healthy, and thriving in his care. He's never missed a school event, never failed to put her needs first. Poverty isn't abuse. It's a circumstance. And Mr. Kennedy is doing everything in his power to overcome it. It was a weak closing, and everyone knew it. Morrison sat down, and Zachary felt the weight of inevitability settling over him. Judge Hewitt made a note on his legal pad. I'll hear from the child's guardian ad litem. Then we'll take a brief recess before I issue my ruling. The guardian ad litem, a court-appointed advocate for Lily, stood and gave a report. She spoke about Lily's bond with her father, but also about the material disparities between the two households. She recommended supervised visitation for Zachary, with primary custody to Vivian. The words felt like a death sentence. We'll take 15 minutes, Judge Hewitt said, standing. The courtroom emptied. Zachary sat alone at the defendant's table, staring at his hands. Steady hands. What good were steady hands when the world was falling apart? Listen, if you've made it this far in the story, you're invested. You want to know what happens next. But here's the thing. Most people scroll past these stories without subscribing. They watch, they enjoy, and they disappear. If this story matters to you, if you actually care how it ends, hit that subscribe button, please. It takes 2 seconds. And if you don't, you'll probably forget about this channel and never hear any other amazing stories from me. Judge Sterling Hewitt didn't normally read non-case related documents during proceedings, but when his bailiff Tom Reeves handed him a folder marked Urgent Personal, he made an exception. In his chambers, Hewitt opened the folder. Inside was a letter from Dr. Sarah Patel, the attending physician at Memorial Hospital's emergency department, along with a medical report. Judge Hewitt, your daughters asked me to forward this to you immediately. On the night of October 15th, Maria and Anna were involved in a vehicle breakdown during a severe electrical storm. Maria suffered a severe acute asthma attack that could have been fatal. Emergency services were delayed due to storm conditions. A civilian, identity unknown, refused to provide his name, performed life-saving first aid. According to Maria and Anna, this individual displayed exceptional medical knowledge, using a manual resuscitator to stabilize Maria's breathing until they could reach our ER. Without his intervention, Maria would likely have suffered respiratory failure. The sisters described a man as follows. Caucasian male, approximately 35 to 40 years old, brown hair, wearing mechanics coveralls from Murphy's Auto Salvage. He drove a tow truck. He refused any acknowledgement or reward and left before we could obtain his information. Maria and Anna have been searching for this man ever since. They want to thank him properly. They also wanted you to know that sometimes the most important kind of stability, the kind that saves lives, has nothing to do with money or status. Respectfully, Dr. Sarah Patel, M.D. Hewitt read the letter twice. Then he looked at the medical report. The anonymous helper had performed a textbook emergency response, proper airway management, assisted ventilation, recognition of critical symptoms, professional grade care, mechanics coveralls, Murphy's Auto Salvage, tow truck. Hewitt's mind raced. He picked up his phone and called Tom. Get me the case file for Kennedy versus Kennedy. Now. 60 seconds later, he was reading Zachary Kennedy's background. Former Army combat medic. 3 tours. Honorable discharge. Current employment. Murphy's Auto Salvage. The dates matched. The description matched. Hewitt sat back in his chair, a strange feeling settling over him. In 30 years on the bench, he prided himself on objectivity. He judged based on evidence, precedent, law. He didn't believe in signs or fate or cosmic justice. But this, his daughter was alive because of Zachary Kennedy, a man who'd been driving in a deadly storm, who'd risked his own safety, who'd used skills most people have forgotten he had, who'd asked for nothing in return, a man currently sitting in Hewitt's courtroom, about to lose his daughter. Hewitt stood, straightened his robe, and walked back into the courtroom. Everyone rose. Please be seated, Hewitt said. He looked directly at Zachary for the first time that day. Mr. Kennedy, I have a question for you. Zachary stood confused. Yes, Your Honor. On the night of October 15th, did you assist two women whose vehicle had broken down on Route 47? The courtroom went silent. Morrison looked baffled. Vivian's lawyers exchanged glances. Vivian herself frowned. Zachary hesitated. Yes, Your Honor. I did. And you provided emergency medical care to one of them? She was having an asthma attack. I did what I could. Why didn't you stay? Why didn't you give them your name? Zachary looked uncomfortable. It wasn't necessary, Your Honor. I was just doing what anyone would do. That's not true, Hewitt said quietly. Most people would have called 911 and waited. You intervened directly. You used combat medical training to stabilize a woman in respiratory distress. You transported her to the hospital, ensuring she received care in time. And then you left without asking for gratitude or compensation. He held up the medical report. The woman you saved was my daughter, Maria. Her sister, Anna, was with her. And they have been searching for you ever since, because they wanted to thank the man who saved Maria's life when emergency services couldn't reach them. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Vivian's face went pale. Morrison's mouth fell open. Zachary stood frozen, not knowing what to say. Hewitt continued, his voice firm. Ms. Chun has spent the morning arguing that stability is measured in square footage and salary figures. That security means private schools and retirement plans. And I won't pretend those things aren't important. They are. He paused, looking at Vivian. But what Ms. Chun failed to argue, what she perhaps couldn't argue, is that true stability is found in character, in the kind of person who drives into a storm instead of away from it, who sees strangers in distress and stops, who has the knowledge, the training, and the composure to act when lives are at stake. Hewitt turned back to Zachary. Mr. Kennedy, why didn't you mention your military service in this custody case? Why didn't you tell this court about your medical training, your decorations, your service record? Zachary's jaw tightened. Because I didn't think it mattered, Your Honor. I want to be judged as a father, as the man I am now, not the man I used to be. And what kind of man are you now? A man who loved his daughter more than anything in this world, Zachary said, his voice breaking slightly. A man who works 2 jobs so she can have a roof over her head and food on the table. A man who reads her every night, who knows her favorite color is purple, who helped her build a birdhouse for her school project. I'm not rich. I can't give her a big house or fancy vacations, but I can give her a father who shows up every single day. The courtroom was silent. Judge Hewitt made a notation in his file. I'm going to tell you something, Mr. Kennedy. When my daughter was gasping for air, when her lips were turning blue and her sister was screaming for help, your bank account didn't matter. Your apartment didn't matter. What mattered was your backbone, your training, your willingness to act when others might have frozen. He looked at Vivian. Ms. Kennedy, I have no doubt you can provide material advantages for Lily, but this court must consider the whole picture of what a child needs. And what Lily needs, what every child needs, is a parent who demonstrates the kind of character that can be relied upon in the worst moments, not just the comfortable ones. Hewitt picked up his gavel. I'm granting full custody to Zachary L. Kennedy, with reasonable visitation rights for Vivian Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy has proven himself to be a man of exceptional character, and I believe Lily is safer, more stable, and better served in his care. The gavel came down. Zachary couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what had just happened. Morrison was shaking his hand, babbling something about a miracle and unprecedented ruling. Vivian was standing, her lawyers talking urgently. Victoria Chin looked like she'd been slapped. But Zachary only heard one thing, his daughter's name. Daddy. He turned. The courtroom doors had opened, and Lily was running down the aisle, her foster guardian following behind. She crashed into him, her small arms wrapping around his waist, and Zachary dropped to his knees, holding her like he'd never let go. I missed you, Daddy, she said into his shoulder. I missed you too, baby girl, he whispered. So much. Behind them, the courtroom doors opened again, and 2 young women stepped inside, Maria and Anna Hewitt. Maria looked healthy now, her breathing normal, her color good. Anna was smiling. Judge Hewitt noticed them and nodded. Maria, Anna, I'm glad you're here. Maria approached Zachary, who was still on his knees with Lily. Are you the man from the storm? Zachary stood, Lily in his arms. Yes, ma'am. We've been looking everywhere for you. Anna said, we wanted to say thank you. You saved her life. I'm just glad you're okay, Zachary said. Maria smiled. We heard what happened, what the judge said, about custody. Is this your daughter? Lily looked at the two women curiously. I'm Lily. Hi, Lily, Maria said gently. Your dad is a hero. Did you know that? Lily beamed. I knew it. I always knew it. Anna pulled a card from her purse and handed it to Zachary. Our father wants to meet with you. Properly this time. Not as a judge. Just as a grateful father. And we'd like to take you and Lily to dinner, if you'll let us, to say thank you. Zachary looked at the card, then at the two sisters, then at Judge Hewitt, who was watching from the bench with an expression that might have been approval. I'd like that, Zachary said quietly. 3 weeks later, Zachary sat in a restaurant far nicer than any place he'd ever taken Lily. The Cascade Room was a kind of establishment where the menus didn't have prices, and the waiters wore white gloves. Judge Hewitt had insisted on paying. Lily sat next to him, wearing a purple dress Maria had bought for her. Every girl needs a special occasion dress, Maria had said. She was happily working through a plate of chicken fingers and fries, occasionally asking Zachary to cut her chicken into smaller pieces. Across the table, Judge Hewitt sat with his daughters. He'd changed out his robes, wearing a simple gray sweater and slacks. He looked like a regular grandfather, not the iron judge who'd nearly taken Lily away. I owe you an apology, Mr. Kennedy, Hewitt said. Zachary, please. Zachary. Hewitt nodded. I made assumptions about you based on income and housing. I failed to look deeper, to see the man behind the circumstances. It was a failure on my part. You were doing your job, Zachary said. You want to protect Lily. I can't fault you for that. Still, I judged too quickly. Hewitt took a sip of water. Maria tells me you refused any reward for helping her. Like I said, I was just doing what needed to be done. Not everyone would. Anna leaned forward. Most people would have driven past, or called 911 and waited. You stopped. You stayed. You saved her. Zachary shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. I had the training. It would have been wrong not to use it. Maria smiled. That's exactly the point. You had the training and you used it. You didn't freeze. You didn't panic. You just acted. That's not common. My dad's the best, Lily announced, looking up from her chicken fingers. He can fix anything. I believe it, Hewitt said, and there was warmth in his voice that hadn't been there in the courtroom. The conversation shifted to lighter topics. Lily's school, Maria's recovery, Anna's work as an art teacher. But as the evening wound down and dessert was served, Hewitt grew serious again. Zachary, I've been thinking, he said, about your situation, your financial circumstances. Zachary tensed slightly. Your Honor. Sterling, please. We're not in court. Hewitt smiled. I have some connections in the veteran services community. There are programs, GI Bill benefits you may not have used, vocational rehabilitation, even small business grants for veteran-owned enterprises. I'd like to help you explore those options. Not because I think you need saving, but because you've already proven you have a drive and discipline to succeed. You just need better opportunities. Zachary didn't know what to say. I appreciate that. Really. And Anna added, pulling out her phone, I have a friend who runs a nonprofit that helps veterans transition to civilian careers. They offer free resume services, interview coaching, even connections to employers who prioritize veteran hiring. I already sent him your information. Hope that's okay. She also told him you're basically Captain America, Maria said, grinning. Zachary felt overwhelmed. You don't have to do all this. We know, Sterling said. We want to. You saved my daughter's life. The least I can do is help you build a better one for yours. Lily tugged on Zachary's sleeve. Daddy, can we get ice cream on the way home? He smiled, ruffling her hair. Yeah, baby girl, we can get ice cream. As they left the restaurant, walking out into the cool autumn evening, Zachary felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not just survival, not just endurance, but actual hope for a future that was more than paycheck to paycheck. Lily held his hand, skipping beside him. Daddy, yeah. Are Maria and Anna our friends now? Zachary glanced back at the three Hewitts, who were walking a few paces behind, talking and laughing. Sterling caught his eye and nodded. Yeah, Zachary said. I think they are. Good, Lily said. I like having friends. 6 months later, Zachary stood in front of his new business, Kennedy Automotive and Towing. The sign had been installed that morning, gleaming in the sunlight. The shop was modest. 3 bays, a small office, a waiting area. But it was his. He'd used a veteran small business loan, combined with the grant Sterling had helped him secure, to buy the property and equipment. Murphy had retired and sold Zachary his old tow truck at a steep discount. You earned it, kid, the old man had said. Lily ran around the parking lot, her purple backpack bouncing. She was in first grade now, thriving. Her teacher said she was bright, engaged, and happy. Zachary had framed that report card. A car pulled up and Maria and Anna stepped out. We brought coffee, Anna announced, holding up a cardboard carrier. And donuts for Lily. Donuts. Lily cheered. They sat in the small office, drinking coffee and eating donuts, while Lily drew pictures of tow trucks on a notepad. How's business? Maria asked. Good. Steady, Zachary said, words getting around. I think people like the idea of a veteran-owned shop. They like the idea of an honest mechanic. Anna corrected. That's rare. Sterling appeared in the doorway, and Lily jumped up to hug him. Over the past 6 months, the judge had become a fixture in their lives, not intrusive, but present. A grandfather figure Lily had never had. I have news, Sterling said. The state bar is creating a new initiative, a legal assistance program for low-income veterans in custody disputes. They want to name it after you. Zachary blinked. What? Why? Because your case exposed a real problem. Too many good parents lose custody simply because they're poor. We're going to change that. Provide free legal representation. Advocate for policy reforms. Make sure the system looks at character, not bank accounts. I don't know what to say, Zachary said. Say yes, Maria said, smiling. Let your story help others. Zachary looked at Lily, who was showing Sterling her tow truck drawings. He thought about the storm, the sisters, the courtroom. How one night had changed everything. Okay, he said. Yes. Anna raised her coffee cup. To second chances. To people who stop in storms, Maria added. To steady hands, Sterling said, looking at Zachary with respect. To family, Zachary said, and they all drank to that. Outside, the sign for Kennedy Automotive and Towing gleamed in the sun. Inside, a man who'd been judged and found wanting had proven that character, not circumstance, defined a person's worth. And somewhere in the Cascade Mountains, on Route 47, the storms still came. But now, when they did, people knew that help might arrive in the form of a tow truck and a man with steady hands. A man who would always stop, always help, always show up, because that's what real stability looked like. So here's the real question. Did you subscribe yet? Thousands of people will listen to this story and won't subscribe. Please don't be that person. Kindly support what I do here by subscribing. And then drop in the comment section if you'd like part 2 of Zachary, Lily, and the Hewitt family story. What challenges will they face as their unlikely friendship deepens? How will Vivian react to her loss? Will Maria and Anna become more than just friends of this new family? And what happens when Zachary's past catches up with him in ways he never expected? Let me know if you want to hear more.